the biggest social issues, drug addiction, homelessness, sexual promiscuity, the list goes on. The things that we often complain about, violence, criminality, they're more often than not, linked to people who grew up in tumultuous childhood. Their home situation was broken apart, whether it was through divorce or single parenthood, or they were thrown away into foster care, and no one looked out for them. They're the children that were truly left behind by every adult in their family.
Let's go.
Welcome, citizen. We have a special guest today for the second time, Adam B. Coleman. What's the B stand for?
Good trivia question. Beresford.
Oh, what the fuck? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Beresford.
Spell it.
Beresford.
And what the hell is that?
So my father's from Trinidad, and I believe Beresford is of like a British origin, that name, but that was his middle name. So that's one of the few things I got from my father.
There's a city in which Dakota? South Dakota called Beresford.
Ah.
Interesting. I've never heard that word before. A little bit of trivia to lead off. So since you were last on the show, you wrote this book, The Children We Left Behind, How Western Culture Rationalizes Family Separation and Ignores the Pain of Child Neglect. Before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about your backstory again for people that don't know or didn't watch the original episode. Where did you grow up?
I was born in Detroit. We moved a lot, so I lived in 4 states before the age of 18. So moved from Detroit to Virginia, Alexandria, Virginia, then to upstate New York, and then eventually to New Jersey. But I just tell people I'm from New Jersey because I've lived there now for like 20 years.
Yeah.
A little over 20 years. So, but yeah, I mean, that encapsulates much of my childhood as being very chaotic, all over the place. We were homeless a couple of times when I was a kid. And all through those experiences, my father wasn't there throughout much of it. He was not an emotional support, not really a financial support either. So it was just myself, my mother, and my sister just trying to survive.
What was his deal? What was he up to?
My father was married. He was always married. So we were essentially the other kids. I actually found out while writing this book that he never had children with his wife, which I thought he did, but he never did. And I have a sister out there somewhere with another woman that he had a child with, but he had zero relationship with.
Did you ever link up with her?
No, I just found this out.
Oh, wow.
I just found out like a few months ago. So I have no idea how I would even discover who this person is.
Yeah, who knows, man. I mean, the internet's pretty crafty these days, but I don't know if I would open that up because you're going to get some weirdos that show up your house.
Yeah.
So what relationship did you have with him, I guess? Since, obviously he wasn't around very much. No,
so when we lived in Detroit, because he always lived in Detroit. So when we lived in Detroit, he would come around once in a while. He would help my mom with certain tasks, but he's a married man, so he can't be there all the time. He was basically someone who just pop in and pop out. So he was sort of involved. I was very young at the time, so I don't have a lot of memories of him being there. But, based on what my mom has told me, I didn't have like an emotional connection to my father because he was so absent and then show up and disappear kind of thing. She even told me at one point he would try to bribe me to come over to him, give me money so I come over and interact with him. So I never really had a relationship with him even when I lived in Detroit. But when we left Detroit, I rarely saw him. I would see him. I feel like after we left Detroit, I probably didn't see him for a few years. And then from there, I might see him once a year, once every other year or something. It was very sporadic.
What was that like? I mean, how do
Yeah.
you see him once per year? Like he shows up, or you go to him, or what?
Yeah, so he would, he was a tailor. He owned a dry cleaning business, but he also did, tailoring work. And he would drive to New York City, and we were always in the Northeast at that point. So we were either in New York or New Jersey. So he would basically just crash at our place, kind of like a pit stop, so he can go to New York City and get fabric. And he might meet some like old Trinidadian friends, but it became very clear to me at a young age that he didn't come this way to see us. We just happened to be there.
And your mom was cool with that, with him dropping by. I guess you got to take any opportunity you can get in that scenario.
Yeah, essentially. I don't want to necessarily speak for my mom, but I always got the feeling like my mom still had feelings for him. He's the father of her children.
Yeah, that's a tough situation.
Yeah.
For the mother especially. So you're a young kid, a male, certainly craving strong male presence like all children do, regardless of sex. And it's not there, at least from your dad. Did you find yourself looking for it in other places? And that, because sometimes it leads some kids to go hyper focus on a skill or a talent they have, so they become super close with a coach or a teacher. And it leads some kids to older dudes who are up to no good. It's usually one of those two things, and that's gangs or drugs or whatever the fuck, right? What was it for you? Like, where'd you find yourself there?
Honestly, I didn't really find too much of that growing up. Like, I was in Scouts, obviously the picture on the cover. I was in the Scouts. But even when it comes to Scouts, it's a father-son type of activity. Obviously, there's a Scout leader, so you're not completely isolated. But the fathers are there to be with their kids and not necessarily to be with the one kid who doesn't have a father. So, it didn't feel exactly the way that I think a lot of people assume that would feel. It's like, oh, you're around a bunch of men and you'll learn a bunch. But I didn't feel that sense of fatherly love or anything like that coming from there. I will say that playing baseball was probably even worse, because now it's like hyper competitive and all the fathers are solely focused on the performance of their child.
Yeah.
And the coaches were fathers of the kids on the teams and stuff like that. So they're the ones who are the pitchers. They're the ones who are on the top of the lineup. So I was always stuck in the outfield and the bottom of the lineup.
And you feel like this, I don't know how to say it, I guess, but did it diminish your competitive nature or make you more shy, I guess, probably? If I had to guess, those would be two things. It's like if you hear somebody rooting for you, it does have an emotional impact on you, and that emotional impact is typically, even in I was talking to Candace about this not too long ago, actually. In a war situation, it is we don't fight because we hate the enemy. People don't charge into gunfire or run into a burning building or whatever and pull their buddy out because they hate the enemy. They do it because they love their people, right? Typically speaking, it's a much greater motivator than hate is. And even in those combat situations, people are thinking of their family. Like, you know what I mean? It's one of the things you use to motivate yourself. And I would imagine, especially as a kid with an underdeveloped brain, that's probably the only motivation you can reach back for, because it's the only thing you really understand at that point.
Yeah, but I didn't get a lot of positive reinforcement, especially from male figures at a very young age. And I think when I was around men, I felt very insecure, almost like uncomfortable. So like an example would be, I'm a teenager and I'm going to a barbershop and it's all men and they conduct themselves in a particular way.
Right.
They hit each other in the back, and it's very much so in a stereotypical male conduct. And I didn't grow up around that, so I felt uncomfortable. I felt inadequate, and that it took years to kind of overcome that aspect and understand why. But like, I didn't have the rough and tumble play. Like, I didn't have that stuff. So men touching my shoulder, which is a normal thing, especially like in sports, felt uncomfortable to me. Although I always hated like slapping the ass in baseball.
Yeah, I mean that's more of a that started with football because John Madden used to talk about that. It's like there's nowhere to hit the guy that he doesn't have pads on, so you got to just hit him in the ass. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
To watch by. But yeah, I mean to that point, there's quite a bit of research now that rough play is good for kids, especially boys, but for girls as well.
Yeah.
Rough housing, wrestling around, whatever, helps kids understand their physical strengths and limitations, right? Helps them develop coordination, but mostly it's about emotional confidence. Like they learn to regulate their emotions in a situation where they're overpowered, which is an important thing to be able to do, right? Because it's one of the things we do in selection processes. You put somebody through a couple of days with no sleep and food, and you just start fucking them up. You know what I mean? And see, you either quit or you learn that, I can deal with this, right? But if you do it at lower levels like this as a child, then they don't grow up with the anxiety that most kids grow up with these days.
Yeah.
And for some reason, we've I don't know if it's just latchkey parenting that we went through or whatever, right? But it's kind of it's gone away for a while. I think it's kind of making a comeback now.
Yeah.
With this generation of parents, but it's certainly something that's demonstrably beneficial for the kid.
Yeah, and I ended up doing that, and it just felt natural to do it, but I did that with my son. One of the first memories I had with him was waiting till he was old enough where I could tickle him. And, because I think it was like a couple months after he was born where finally I could tickle him and he would laugh. So that was my thing when he was very young. And being physical with him and playing with him and stuff like that. But I don't remember my father being that type of person. My mother, from what I don't remember, my mother never filled in by saying, "Oh, he did that with you." It was always kind of everything was at a distance.
And once you got into your high school years, your, I guess, post-pubescent, and hormones are firing, brain is changing a little bit, the way that we see the world and deal with it. I mean, it starts around 7 or 8, and then through 12 or 13 kind of develops, and then you start seeing the world even at that young age to some degree as a man will start to see it when they become older, and those are like huge developmental periods.
Yeah.
And where did you go looking then for whatever comfort, inspiration, support? Where'd it come from?
Well, one thing I really struggled with in high school was self-esteem. I had low self-esteem, and really that carried on to my adult years as well. I tended to look for external validation wherever I could find it. So especially entering your teenage years, it became girls. So if a girl actually liked me, then it made the world for me. But when she would break up with me or no longer showed interest, then I was like depleted, and that's something that it took me a long time to realize, like it was a pattern of my behavior of putting everything, how I felt, my worth, everything into how a woman saw me. And so that made me desperate, because no one wants to feel, inadequate and not being validated.
Yeah.
But I would say my teenage years were a struggle as well. And something to just before my teenage years, if I can add, because I think it's important. I had basically like a mental break at the age of 8. And I was admitted into a mental hospital. And I was there for a few months. And that altered the way I expressed myself as well. So I became incredibly quiet afterwards. I didn't express how I felt. I was pretty much like a blank face kind of kid. Whether I was sad or I was happy, it was hard to tell. And so like bringing that into my teenage years, it was hard for me to express when I wasn't doing well or when I needed help. You know, I don't think I'm a dumb person, but I essentially failed the last 3 years of my high school. I had to take summer classes, and my the year I'm supposed to graduate, I didn't graduate with my class. I didn't walk with them. I had to take some sort of summer program to get enough work in so they could give me a high school diploma. But I wasn't really advocated for within my public school. No one said, "Hey, this is the second year he's going to, you know, going to summer school. Let's speak with him. Let's see what's going on." It just kind of like moved me along.
This was in New Jersey?
Yeah, this is in New Jersey.
I don't know much about the schools up there, to be honest. I think they have some decent schools, but
they do. It just depends where you live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, then you get into high school, and you know, there's this confluence of a lack of social experience, which will make you lack in confidence and self-esteem, and then you add on to that not having certainly there probably were some positive male role models, but not in the way you described as fatherly love, right?
Right.
Like, I'm responsible for you, and that which gives you, it's like having training wheels on life almost. You know what I mean? Like, I can jump because if I fall down, this motherfucker's gonna pick me up.
Exactly.
That's a big thing, you know, for a child especially. But it's a big thing for even us as adults, I think. To some degree, it's a big thing. So then how do you manage that coming out of high school? And it seems like at the time your validation was almost entirely external.
Yeah.
Which is not a great place to be in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, for one, I was struggling. And then, you know, my son's mother got pregnant when I was 20. So, you know, I wasn't necessarily prepared for that, nor was I prepared to be a father or knew how to be a father 100%, other than to not be my father. But it ended up being one of the best things to happen because, one, I love my son to death, and two, it forced me to grow up and try harder, and to not make everything about myself. You know, even though that was, sometimes it was a struggle, you know, to figure out where's the line in between. But I still struggled with suicidal ideation occasionally. I still was putting, you know, external validation onto, you know, my future girlfriends and stuff like that. I was getting better at it, not doing it as much, but it was still a struggle for me. I want to say that what really helped me was when I did go to therapy in my mid-20s. I started having panic attacks at my job, and that brought me into therapy. And I didn't think I was going to be talking about my childhood, but that's what happened. And I realized all these things that were unresolved that I never expressed, and everything kind of poured out. But it really opened up my eyes as to all the things within me that I wasn't resolving, that I was just like holding down and putting on to somebody else, not being responsible, or just acknowledging that these things happen and how much it was affecting me.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to find a leak, you have to put some water in the bucket sometimes. You know what I mean? So what was it like, I guess, when you found out that your girlfriend was pregnant? Was that a panic moment for you, or is it just like, oh, this is happening now? People react a lot of different ways. Even when their situations are good, they react different ways. So.
Yeah. In the beginning, it was a little bit panicky because it's like, I don't even know what to do. Like, I'm still living
Nobody
at home.
does, by the way.
Yeah. That's what I found out. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, I'm still living at home. I got a dead end job. Like, but you know, I went with her to all her appointments. I was there when he was born. and I just said, you know, I got to man up. I got to figure it out. So I just figured I would become the father that I would have wanted when I was a kid.
And do you think that is, certainly you've made some mistakes, because we all do. But before, like, I'm very curious about that, because there are, when we learn all of our lessons in the most extreme environments, that doesn't always map perfectly onto just a normal life. You know what I mean? Like Ayn Rand is an example of that. She grew up getting brutalized by communism, and it was like all government is evil and we need to be anarchists. I'm like, all right, that might be an overcorrection, right? Yeah. And that's one of the dangers, I think, of even people that grew up in stable households or whatever. We all tend to do for our children what we missed when we were children. And you know, how do you stay measured and not become a helicopter parent? Right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of that going around these days. The latchkey kids are just like, oh, my dad was working all the time, and my mom was also working all the time, and I was by myself, so my kid will never be alone. And I don't think that's particularly healthy, right?
Right.
So how do you balance it, I guess? Or what before you answer that, tell me some mistakes you've made, and then like how you realized it was a mistake and then began to correct it, because I think that's good for the audience to hear.
Yeah, I think one of those things I would say was mistake, and it's sort of controversial from a parenting standpoint. I was spanked when I was a kid, and I know a lot of people are. When I had my son, I essentially was doing how I was raised. You know, but he was very young. You know, I'd pop him on the butt or something like that. But there was a couple of things. I noticed that when I did it, I was frustrated. And two, I remembered when I was a kid and I already felt bad, and then I was getting hit, which made it worse. Yeah. Like, it didn't help the situation. So one day I just told myself, I don't like how this feels. I'm not going to do it anymore. And when he messes up, I'm just going to talk to him more. So it's not to say he never got punished or anything like that, or that, you know, that there weren't circumstances where it was difficult. But I noticed that the more I would talk to him, the less issues became. Yeah. And I just made it so, like, if you mess up, just tell me so we can figure it out. That was basically my motto to him. And we would discuss these things. And I've had to yell at him, but I've always explained why, right? So it wasn't, I'm just pissed off and I just want to yell at him and I just leave it be. I always saw it like, I need to talk to him so he understands why I'm pissed off, right? What he did, and tell him I expect more from him. So to raise my expectations of him. And so not everything was geared towards punishment. Like, I need to teach him, because kids fuck up. Yeah. So I started doing that, and there weren't really any moments that I regretted my decision at all. As a matter of fact, we got even closer, and he understood. It got to a point where if I raised my voice, because he knew he disappointed me, that he would cry, you know, and it's because he respected me and I respect my son. So we just had this mutual understanding that when it came to our relationship, you tell me the truth and I'll always tell you the truth, and I'll always be real with him. So even when he was a little kid and he'd tell me these corny ass jokes, I never laughed because I didn't want to lie to him, because they weren't funny. So you ever heard of Focus on the Family? You're familiar with that organization? Yeah. Actually, yes.
James Dobson, the guy that founded it, I read one of his books. It's from like the mid-'90s or some shit, but one of the phrases that always stuck with me since I read it the first time when I was a teenager was that the more often you catch your kids doing the right thing, the less often you'll catch them doing the wrong thing, right? And it's the general premise is that positive reinforcement and mutual respect work quite a bit better in a managerial situation, whether it's in your workplace or your family, than fear, right? Because fear will teach them to it'll teach a lower amount of self-confidence, and then two, it teaches them to, if they go in the other direction, to be craftier about getting away with shit. Right. Which there's probably some utility to that, evolutionarily speaking, but that's not the relationship I think you want to have with your child. And then on the other part, you know, people, to the point, I hear this from parents all the time. They're worried about fucking their kids up. I'm like, dude, if like you don't even think about that, because most of the stuff that sticks out in your head, they won't even remember. And then on the other side of it, it's okay to fuck up. Not that you should do it on purpose, but it's okay to fuck up. Just make sure that you explain and apologize. It's a good, I think it's a really good opportunity actually, to once you realize you've overreacted to something, to be humble and go eye to eye with this kid and say, hey, what I did wasn't okay. I did it for this reason and this reason. And I expect better of myself as well. I think it's a really good experience for a child to see somebody they love and respect that's older than them accept responsibility for their error.
Yeah.
Because it teaches them that it's one, that that's the way to do it, and two, that it's okay to do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And pretending like you're perfect your whole life in front of your kids sets an unreasonable expectation. They're going to go out in the world and think that they have to be perfect all the time. And when they don't, they think they've failed at life. And that's a horrible example to set, I think.
I agree. And I've had to do that with him. You know, I might pick him up and I'm frustrated because something at work. And then, you know, he didn't do something fast enough. And then I raised my voice at him. And I've gone back to him and I've apologized. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. Yeah, I do think you have to be humble when it comes to. I think you should be humble when, throughout your life, no matter what it is, but especially in parenting. You're an authority figure, and you're going to mess up. And those kids, they're looking at you, but they're going to mess up too. You're going to have to tell them to do things 20 times. Yeah. And it's not because they don't respect you or whatever. They just forget. You know, they can't see around the corner. They're distracted easily. You know, you're going to have to tell them repeatedly. So we have to give our kids grace and understand that you're going to have to repeat yourself. And it is frustrating to repeat yourself as an adult. But they're not adults. They're kids.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was functionally retarded until I was like 27, to be honest. Like I knew a lot of stuff, which probably made it even worse, to be honest, because I was smart and I knew a lot of things, but I didn't know shit about life or how to treat people or anything like that. And, you know, it can't, like, for me, that whole, it was later in life, to be honest, that whole, like, how to become a man, self-discovery stuff happened, not even in the military necessarily, but to some degree recovering from it after I got out, where I was struggling with identity, struggling with purpose especially, and realize that all of the things I'd done over the past couple of years to try to rehabilitate myself that were focused primarily on me were not working. And it, you know, at some point it clicked that why would it? You know what I mean? We're not individualist human beings. We're not. We've evolved as communal creatures, and everything, like every meaningful thing you do in your life will be in the service of other people, which means that evolutionarily speaking, we're wired to be more physically and mentally healthy when we're serving others, right? Like all the chemicals in our body that activate when you do a nice thing for somebody, that's important. It literally makes you healthier when you do that, both mentally and physically. And it clicked sometime in my 30s. I'm like, oh my God, I've wasted so much time being a selfish piece of shit. You know what I mean? Not that I wasn't bad to anybody, right? But there was so much lost opportunity where I could have been helping other people. You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
As a result, helping myself as well. I think that's, you know, it's a very difficult thing to rationalize unless you grew up around that with positive, especially male role models who were putting themselves between you and danger, or leading you into places, or whatever. Like you see the direct result of sacrifice for somebody else, from somebody that you respect. I think is a really important thing to have happen when you're a young kid. And most of us, not most of us actually, I don't know if that's true or not, but a lot of us didn't ever experience that at a young age. And then we see it as adults, and it's confusing at first. It's like, oh, what's this guy up to? I'm still very suspicious of anybody that's nice to me. Maybe that's just me.
I guess it depends on how nice. you know, and how the frequent of niceties. You know, so like if someone's love bombing you, you're amazing. Oh, you're wonderful. Like, why are you just hit me with all these compliments? Yeah, they might be trying to butter you up. But some people are just, I try to be polite.
Yeah, being polite, I think, doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
And it certainly makes life a little bit easier. I mean, I can't really say this about myself in traffic because I just yell at people all the time. But I think I'm terrible socially, but Candace always says I do a really good job, and I guess I'm just used to it by now. But I don't feel like I do a great job of in bigger groups. One-on-one, I'm pretty good.
Yeah.
Or in a small group, talking to people. But you know, it's something you develop over time, and again, it's another thing that comes as a result of experience and. Confidence is the thing that comes with the result of that, right? I think anxiety is like healthy anxiety is the result of being unprepared. Like I haven't studied enough for this test, or I haven't experienced this thing enough, so I'm anxious about my performance or something like that, usually, right? We see it as a negative emotion, but it's a neutral emotion, right? It's like it's like hunger.
Yeah.
Hunger feels negative in the moment, but then I eat, and my body continues to survive. So it's a net positive if you address the emotion the correct way. Pretty much anything can be a positive. One of my favorite quotes for myself, which is kind of an arrogant thing to say, is inhale rage and exhale purpose. It's okay to be angry, but what have you done with it now, right? Like nature has made you angry. It gave you the physiological tools to make your body feel angry, and it wasn't for no reason. There's a reason for it, right? Everything has a purpose here. So what's the purpose, and what have you done with it? Have you just sat on your anger? Have you used your anger to validate some shitty behavior? Because that's not great either, right? You've taken a gift in the form of physiological stimulation that's meant to make you act, and you've done something stupid with it, right? That's completely unacceptable, and it's going to happen. Look, when I say unacceptable, this isn't a binary situation. You're going to fuck up in life, but you should have that standard that was unacceptable that I did that. Like I should not have reacted this way to that thing, and next time I'll do better.
Right.
Otherwise, you know, we're just going to be emotional creatures, and it's when a woman is an emotional creature, that's a little bit annoying sometimes, but it's fine because that's how they're wired. When a man is an emotional creature, he does violent shit. And we can't have that, right? Because you can't add a predilection for violence into emotional instability. That always results negatively. It's usually like terrorism, school shooters, fucking abusing women, stuff like that. It's never a good thing.
Right. Yeah. When you were talking about anxiety, that was something that I really struggled with, but it became so normal that I didn't realize how bad it was. I don't know if you've ever experienced something like that. You don't realize how bad it is until it's no longer there.
Give me an example.
So, overcoming my social anxiety, I realized that one, I had bad social anxiety once it stopped being present. Yeah. And when I would go back and think, you would say, let's go to a restaurant. And I'm thinking about, all right, where do I park? What's it like in there? I'm just like, I'm worried about all these things that you don't need to worry about. Just go there and you'll be fine.
You'll figure it out.
You'll figure it out. But I would focus on these things. And if I'm anxious about like those little tiny things, the big things I was also anxious about, even more so.
Not only more anxious about it, but probably distracted and unprepared to a greater degree for those things because you're worried about this stupid bullshit that doesn't even matter. Right. You know what I mean? The forest for the trees and all.
Exactly. And ultimately, the way I see it is like, I don't trust myself. That's why I don't trust that when I get there, that I'll just see that there's a parking spot. That I don't need to research and I don't need to go through all this other stuff.
Or that I'm 5 minutes late because I can't find parking and who fucking cares? Right. The world has not ended because I'm 5 minutes late. But I'm the same, to be honest. Not anymore, but when I was going through those transitional periods, I felt a great deal of anxiety about shit that did not have any real impact on my life. And I think a lot of it was from some degree of social awkwardness because if you work backwards from it, it seemed to me like this is sometime later when I was starting to kind of analyze my behavior, but it seemed to me that I was trying to avoid social interaction and any kind of thing that varied from the rigid plan. Like I can make a reservation and then just show up. Hi, I'm Dan. Okay, good. Here's your seat. And I don't have to talk to anybody anymore. But then if I have to go on and explain why I've been late, or get on the phone and tell them I'm going to be late, or if everybody is already there before me and I walk in and all the eyeballs turn on me, that was very uncomfortable for me, right? So now I'm trying to set up a situation where that never happens, and that's just fucking stupid. What's the point of that?
Yeah.
Like you just want to go through life unnoticed? That's not how life works, bud. I mean, unless you're a fucking ninja or something, good luck. That's just it's an unreasonable expectation for yourself. And a big part of life, frankly, is about managing expectations. You've got to be like, I like dreamers. I like that. I like pushing yourself to the limit. But I am at my height, literal height, I was 6 foot tall and 1/4 inch, I think. And I've shrunk about a half an inch because of the Army, the airborne, carrying packs around. I'm not going to play in the NBA. And I'm just going to have to live with that. You know what I mean? Like, it's certainly cool to like think about what might be when you're young and stuff like that, and it motivates you to do stuff. But at some point, you've got to start being reasonable. And it's completely unreasonable to expect that you're going to be an elite level this or that when you just don't have the natural skills or natural talent to do that, right?
Right.
So, okay, cool. What's next? What do I do next? But some people get really hung up on this stuff. And for me, it was like, I think for people that have social anxiety like that, for whatever cause, whether it was a tumultuous childhood or there's like these even high functioning autistic people have a lot of problems with, like super high functioning people still have issues with it. It's social interaction, which is, how do you get away from that? It's not like I can just not play basketball and that'll be fine. I can just not go do this thing that I'm poor at. I cannot go through life without interacting socially. I can't. You know, people do it sometimes and they have shitty lives because of it.
Yeah.
So I knew that I couldn't do that. So frankly, I just had to suck it up. But that's not great advice to somebody, to just suck it up. Yeah, like we've got to do a better job at taking that kid and giving them the social experience and confidence they need to become an adult. And I'm talking about the kids, as you discuss in this book, that we've left behind. And there's a lot of them for a bunch of different reasons. Some of them were latchkey kids. Some of them had absent fathers. Some of them, I like the crime bill in the mid 90s that put a lot of black dudes in jail, criminals. They should be in jail, right? But we just left the kids. What does that say about us? That we now we didn't create the problem. People decided to go involve themselves in criminal activity that made life dangerous for people that did not want it to be dangerous. So we intervened, fine. But then you just left a bunch of kids with no dads. What did you do to solve that fucking problem? We didn't do shit. We didn't do, as a society, we didn't do anything to solve that problem. We didn't do anything to solve that problem in Appalachia either. And now they are addicted to pills, right? And fentanyl and meth and shit. It's like all over the country, we see examples of what you're talking about in this book. Some of it was political, in that postmodernism leached its way into every fucking facet of our society and told you that marriage is bad, or it's negotiable or whatever, that you don't necessarily, it's the Murphy Brown thing, right? Like you don't need a man, just have your kid. Like, okay, man, good fucking luck with that, especially if it's a boy child. Good luck, you're creating a bunch of violent people, but violent and emotional kids that shoot up schools or join gangs and stuff. It's like, we know that doesn't work. But we did it. Some of it was like that. Some was political. Some of it was social, and it was second and third order effects that we didn't take into account. But I think now people are, if not aware, becoming aware that this is a big problem for us. And it's something that will probably happen again in the future, even though the late teen, early 20s crowd is becoming quite a bit more conservative in this regard now. As a result, we should document this in a real way and write some ways that it was eventually solved for people, because it will happen again in the future. And we're going to have another class of another 2 generations probably at some point in the near future of young, purposeless men. And that's a dangerous thing for society.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I do think that for some of these people, if we're talking about maybe a generation ago, the reason why, yes, postmodern, feminist type of theory, downgrading the importance of fathers within the home, the importance of men in general. But I think sometimes that ideology validates the lived experience for young women. And unfortunately, for a lot of these young women, if they saw a chaotic home where their father was abusive or their father left or whatever it is, or their father was absent, right? And then you have an ideology that says, actually, it's not just your father, it's men. Then they just get preyed on because of that. That's something that I've noticed over the time. It's like most of these feminists are coming from some sort of childhood situation, or maybe it wasn't inside their home. Maybe they were victimized outside of their home, but they're the victim of something, and that ideology leaches onto that. Yeah,
and I think it's we often get caught in these little traps. I mentioned Ayn Rand before. It's where one horrific element, even if it's a prolonged one, seems to inform everything you do for the rest of your life.
Right.
You definitely see that with the I guess the trope is daddy issues with women, or on the other end, man hating. Right. It's one of those two things. And then on the male side, you get dudes that are cucks that just have no masculine tendencies at all because it's been pushed down and oppressed in them. Or they've come from a situation where dad was abusive and mom didn't do anything to stop it, or dad mistreated mom, or mom mistreated him, and this is the modern manosphere, right? It's the all these stupid fucking losers. I mean, that's what they are. They're fucking nerds and losers. Like what's that Cobra? Andrew Tate. He's a fucking loser. That's all he is. Like mentally and socially, he's a fucking loser. They think that because I was mistreated at some point by some woman or some variation of that no woman anywhere has any value. And they tell young men this, and young men think that, and then they go looking for women, which is what young men do. And because they think that, they will only look for women that have no value.
Yeah.
And they end up with women that have no value, and it validates their stupid ass idea that women have no value, and then they're stuck either doubling down on it or just being incels and sitting at home alone. It's one of those two things, and that is fucking toxic bullshit. I think it's the worst thing, other than all this stupid, like, certainly the government of Israel should be held to account like anybody else because they do all sorts of stupid shit. But this, like, right-wing turn to anti-Jew stuff is just so fucking loser, gay nonsense, man. It's like we've seen this so many times over and over, David Irving or whomever it is coming along saying stupid shit. It's like, shut the fuck up, man. But this one is particularly nefarious, I think, because, it's I guess the audience for it is so much larger. Most people hear something like, oh, the Jews are in control of everything. They're like, no, it's probably not true because I know a bunch and they're not in control of shit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then for this, though, growing up in a period where young men have quite a bit lower testosterone and social anxiety than that we've never seen before. Now you tell them, well, it's not your fault. It's not, there's nothing you're doing that's wrong. Women just don't have any value. Then they actually believe it.
Yeah.
And it might take them 10 or 15 years to either grow out of that or just go away as a result of it. I think it's doing irreparable damage right now, and these people should be stopped.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's victim ideology.
It is pathetic, yes.
It's very pathetic. And I empathize with these guys because they are being taken advantage of. When Andrew Tate has these guys become his pay pigs. And actually, what's very ironic about these particular things, like Andrew Tate essentially idolizes his father. And the way he describes his father was a trash human being and was, I guess you could say, abusive towards his mother.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, he idolizes him. And that's his framework as far as being a man.
Yeah.
And so now he's out here, quote unquote, teaching men how to become men in the worst possible fashion. And then what he ends up doing is essentially using these men who don't know better, right? He says a few things that are somewhat true, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to say this. But then he just takes advantage of it from there. Meanwhile, these same guys complain about the rich, handsome guy who's built is taking all the women, yet they go to Andrew Tate and pay him.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the very guy that they complain about.
It's like the weirdest multi-level marketing scheme of all time.
Right.
Where
It's like Pearl.
You lose. Like, there's no way to win that.
Yeah.
I just don't understand. I mean, I do because they're essentially being victimized by stupid ideology, so I get it.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, we've got to do better than that. And just, you know, the people that are parroting this stuff or allowing it to progress, or saying, you know, I think he is right about a cut. It's like, no, he's not right about any. He's never been right about anything in his entire life, actually. Just a complete nonsense ideology, and also suicidal culturally to allow somebody like that to come into your life. I mean, I'm not terribly concerned because I think this stuff has a way of working itself out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this is almost like, you know, fifth generation warfare wherein there's an information operation going on. I know that China especially spends quite a bit of money trying to influence our social politics here. Like BLM and Antifa, that was all paid for by Russia and China. I've seen the receipts on that. Some of it was actually USAID money that made its way over to China and then back in
Right.
from China to here, which is not shocking, but that's definitely a thing that's happening. And the real problem with it, when I say it's fifth generational, is because of the information operation. But the real problem with it is because it is classical warfare to a degree. You're attacking the enemy's supply lines, right? And the supply line in this scenario is the male protection and guidance that the society needs to function correctly. You're telling men that women have no value, so they're not worth being protected, and you're telling those same men that they don't have any duty to protect their environment, right? So who's there to protect it then?
Yeah.
And now we're vulnerable, right? We're vulnerable in the short term because men aren't protecting things, and we're vulnerable in the long term because our birth rates are falling because these motherfuckers won't get married and have children.
Yeah.
Right? And I've fallen victim to that myself when I was younger. It's like, of course, at some point, you get over it. I think most people get over it, but we've got to accelerate this process of dudes getting over it, because I'm not a good role model in that example. You can't wait until your 40s to start having kids, in my opinion. I think one of the reasons for the reason that you said before, which is that turning that fucking purpose faucet on immediately makes you a better person.
Yeah. Immediately.
Like, as soon as you realize, I mean, even and it happens socially, and it also happens physiologically. And this is how low a level it can have an effect on you at. People that have dogs in their 70s have like a 50% less chance of developing dementia because they have a responsibility, right? I mean, that's that. If you need any more science than that to tell you to go find some purpose in your life, then I don't know what to tell you, to be honest, because that's about it. Just having to walk something twice a day makes you better as a person than not having that. You know what I mean? So
That's
imagine having a child that you're like having to contemplate, am I doing the right thing? Am I being a good enough person for this little kid to turn into a good man or woman? I think it's a super important thing for us.
I didn't know that about dementia, but that's fascinating to understand, and it doesn't shock me. You know, even with me doing all of this stuff that I'm doing now, you know, with this being my second book, the purpose of even writing the first book was to leave something for my son. So my son is always whether I'm diving into something or I'm writing for these publications, it's to demonstrate a conduct of character for my son. When I started writing for the New York Post, I would go and get the newspaper, and especially because, like, back in the day, you know, when I was playing baseball, you had a good one when your name showed up in the newspaper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think my name showed up in the newspaper like once or twice. I wasn't that good.
I threw a couple of no-hitters in high school, so I had it pop up, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So
awesome.
So for me, like writing for the New York Post was like, oh, I finally got my name in the paper. But I would always buy 2 papers, and we created a scrapbook. And for almost like 2 years, I was putting together one scrapbook for me and another scrapbook for my son. So when my son, him and his mother moved like a little bit further away, but he was getting a little bit older. He's turning 18 and he's getting into his life. And I gave him a scrapbook. He didn't know that I had it for him, but I finally gave it to him as a reminder of like, your father worked really hard and wanted to say the thing that he wanted to say. And that he was brave enough to do it in such a public fashion that even a national newspaper would publish it, and dealt with the criticisms of saying the thing that needed to be said. If I can do this, you can do this. So, just like this book is dedicated to my son as well. So for me, that purpose goes even farther than just, raising my son. He's an adult now, he's 19. Yeah. And so I'm demonstrating, this is how you be a young man. This is how you face the world. And he knows he can come to me, almost like in a mentor kind of way. That's the way I kind of see it. Once they become adults, you can't really tell them what to do. Sure. But you can be there for them.
Good luck trying to tell a fucking teenager what to do. That's never going to fucking work, dude.
Yeah. But you can be there as a mentor. Yeah. And as long as they know they can come to you, I think that's where I'm at right now. When he wants to talk about something, he knows he can ask me. Yeah.
Yeah. What's so before we get out of here, let's talk about the book a little bit. What's it's The Children We Left Behind. Give me an elevator pitch. What's the premise of the book?
Yeah, actually, you kind of touched it in the very beginning, that the biggest social issues, drug addiction, homelessness, sexual promiscuity, the list goes on. The things that we often complain about, violence, criminality, they're more often than not linked to people who grew up in tumultuous childhood. Their home situation was broken apart, whether it's through divorce or single parenthood, or they were thrown away into foster care and no one looked out for them. They're the children that were truly left behind by every adult in their family. So I wanted to talk about that link between all of them. And for me, that seems to be the root of all of these issues that we talk about. So we can talk about homelessness in San Francisco. You want to give them a house and all this other stuff. But like, most of these people who are on the streets in San Francisco are drug addicts or alcoholics. And I'm sure you've seen this. For people who are hard into drugs and alcohol, many of them have been doing some sort of substance since they were teenagers. Yeah. So then the question is, why is a teenager using drugs and alcohol in a very hard fashion? It's because they're trying to cope with something. Something is happening in their home. Happy kids aren't becoming addicts. Right. So that's why I keep going back to the family issue. You mentioned before the mass shootings. It's like, I can't remember the percentage, but it's overwhelming. It's either kids from single parent homes. Yeah,
80%, I think.
Yeah, something ridiculous.
I think
Divorces.
I think it's 81%.
Yeah. So that's a big key factor. If we were going around saying that 80% of people who do this get cancer, we would be very concerned. Yeah. Right? But for this particular topic, we like to individualize it, and they're like, well, no, this circumstance is different, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But it's like, hey, it's the same core problem, family separation, and how it impacts kids. So what I was trying to do was put everything together, but also use my story, because those are extreme circumstances. Sure, yeah. But there are tons of kids who were like me, who struggled with depression, who struggled with suicidal ideation. I could have taken my life if I made that choice. I was on that edge to doing stuff like that, who constantly struggle. And those problems may not turn into criminality and drug addiction, but they affect society in various negative ways. Continuing tumultuous relationships that produce more kids who are growing up dysfunctional. Yeah. Like it just the cycle keeps going and going.
Yeah. And that's, certainly we've got do something as a society to fix that problem. I don't think we can make it much further as a civilization unless we correct this problem.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I mean, I think the fact that a lot of people are talking about it now, it seems like there's some measure of accountability that's becoming normal again, instead of just people are openly talking about how it's like this perpetual state of victimhood is not appropriate, which is nice, because that was kind of the standard. I mean, it has become our primary social currency now. Unfortunately, it used to be like, you can imagine it. A guy moves to a new town and goes to work at the local factory or whatever the fuck, and people will, quite a bit more friendly back then probably, so people start talking to him, and there's going to be these social tasks that we are charged with that help other people determine whether or not we're good or not, right? Respectful, polite, honorable, blah blah blah. That used to kind of be the social currency, and then we celebrated things like bravery because it's an elevation of just honor. It's something. It's honor where you've actually put your life on the line, stuff like that. And now it's like, well, this person is part of a marginalized class, so I've got to care more about them than I do somebody else. Like, no, I'm not playing that game, because that's fucking stupid, right? Like, certainly if I look in the data and see that one group or another isn't excelling, then that's something to pay attention to. Like, hey, we should look into this and help deal with this problem. But the idea that the individuals involved have no agency and that we should just look, it'll be easier for them if we just take it out of their hands. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You've created, you've created a self-perpetuating, like loser factory at that point. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It just doesn't make any sense. It only makes it worse when you do that. And this is something I've been trying to tell the veteran community for years, and especially at the administration level, all of the nonprofit organizations, the VA, the federal government in general, they all, like, there's a couple that on the nonprofit side that do okay, but all the other organizations are terrible. They spent the last 15 years giving people pills and patting them on the back and telling them it's okay. It's like, dudes don't need that. They need a job to do. They need purpose. They need something to be responsible for that's not themselves. Right. And unless you are capable of giving, so step one is address, step two is round off the rough edges a little bit, and step three is put them in a position where they can do stuff for other people. And if you don't follow that chain, you will lose that guy. He'll either kill himself or he'll fall out of society, whether it's drug addiction or incel, whatever the fuck. It's like, I've been telling people this for 15 years, and finally some people are starting to listen. So hopefully, we can set that. I think that's a standard for all people. I don't think it is exclusive to the veteran community. I think all men need that, right? And history kind of bears that out.
Yeah, absolutely. I think purpose is essential, and I think you said it perfectly.
All right, we're going to go do Drinking Bros, which is going to be quite a bit more crazy than this. Hope you're prepared for that. I don't know if you've ever watched that show before, but don't get anxious. It can get pretty wild. But tell everybody where they can find you and where they can find this book.
Yeah, they can find the book Amazon, or they can purchase it directly from wrongspeak.net. But it is available at your favorite book retailer. The audiobook is out. It should hit Audible before the end of the month.
Oh, sweet.
But it is on different audiobook platforms depending on what you're looking for.
Did you read it yourself?
No, I did not. But my friend Peter Feliciano has a sexy voice, so he did a good job with it. And yeah, they can follow me on Twitter at @wrong_speak. Same on YouTube. And I have a Substack, adambcoleman.substack.com.
How often do you publish over there?
I do like updates and occasional articles and videos and stuff like that. So I try to do something 3 to 4 times a week. Yeah.
And you write pretty regularly for the Post as well.
Yeah, it's slowed down over the past like 6 months or so, but yeah, maybe like a couple times a month I'm in
Sweet.
the Post. Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming today. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for listening. This has been Citizen.